last night I was going over like my different dates. I like figured out I could come up with a new game called Sobriety Date Bingo. Because I have several. I'm not making light out of that. You do not have to relapse. I did, and that's part of my story. I hope that maybe me being here today is going to help somebody.
Well, hello, friends of Bill W. and other friends. You have landed on Sober Speak. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic, and we are glad you are all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery as a whole and newcomers to this podcast. Sober Speak is a podcast about recovery centered around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My job here on Sober Speak is simple. My job is to provide a platform to the amazing stories of recovery all around us. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. Please remember, we do not speak for AA or any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. Greetings from Studio AA, deep in the heart of Tejas. That was the voice of my friend, Mr. Doug S., that you heard at the beginning of this here episode. And you are going to hear so much more from him in un momento. But first things first, guess what? This here episode, the one that you are listening to right now, is brought to you by, sponsored by, Kathy and Stephanie and Paul and Terry and Todd and Kurt and Lou and Audrey and Anonymous and Mary Lynn. What, you may ask, are you inquisitive and you want to know what did Kathy and Stephanie and Paul and Terry and Todd and Kurt and Lou and Audrey and Anonymous and Mary Lynn do? Well, let me fill you in, listeners. They went to our website, www.soberspeak.com, which is maintained, I may mention again, by the lovely Mrs. M. And they clicked on our A-O-U-R, our little yellow donate tab, and they made a contribution. So thank you so much, Kathy and Stephanie and Paul and Terry and Todd and Kurt and Lou and Audrey and Anonymous and Mary Lynn. This here episode is coming right out to youans. All right, so I saw this posted in our let me say this real quick. I thought about whether to say this or not, and I don't know why I feel uncomfortable about it, but I'm going to say it anyway. And this is a celebration of all of us, this community, if you will. We, the Sober Speak podcast here, just surpassed 2 million downloads. We're listening to the last time I checked, it was like 212 different countries. Some of these places I did not even know were a country, but nonetheless, we surpassed 2 million. And I truly do mean that as we. It's all of us together. It's the super secret Facebook community. It's the all of you follow us on Instagram. All of you follow us on Pinterest. It is, if it was just me with a mic I'm sitting here every week and putting some things out there and nobody was listening to it, this wouldn't be a lot of fun, right? But all of us together are able to share our experience, strength, and hope. Hopefully, we provide a place that gives you a sense of comfort, a sense of spiritual growth, a sense of getting better, a sense of doing the right thing, a sense of working, a tool that helps you work the steps, a tool that enables you to grow closer to others and to the God of your understanding. And that's what we're all about here, right? I'm so blessed to be a small portion of many of your lives. And I realize, as I've said many times, you have so many things you could be doing with your time besides coming here and listening to my silly little podcasts. But I know many of you do it. I see all the numbers. I see them coming in. And like I said, I'm just grateful that God has given me this microphone and given me the ability, if you will, to get this message. And when I say this message, to carry the message which saved my life and given me the ability to carry it out there unto you. I didn't say that right, but you know what I mean. God bless y'all. Anyway, we just passed 2 million and, it's just, sometimes it just seems a little unbelievable. I do want to let you know that sometimes I'll be just sitting around at night and, I will imagine, all of us like sitting in one big room together and just being able to give each other hugs and high fives. And I know that's not going to happen, but it is really cool that you all have been on this journey with me. And many times when I'm traveling or just sitting around late at night, it brings a tear to my eye to think about the connection that all of us have been able to develop through this little podcast for so many years now. So anyway, God bless you all. That's enough. That's probably why I said I debated. I didn't know exactly what I would say if I was going to say anything. I stumbled over some of my words, but there it is. We passed 2 million. Anyway, Jerry posted this in the super secret Facebook group. Speaking of what I just said, and he entitled this "The Next Right Thing." And then he put up a quote from the Big Book, and it says, "As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful." Is there anybody out there that possibly needs to pause today? And then it says, "And we ask for the right thought or action." We constantly remind ourselves, we are no longer running the show. Humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, "Thy will be done," we are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. That's on page 87 and 88 from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you so much for posting that, Mr. Jerry O. All right, now, on to our featured guest of the week. Okay, so this one is called Sobriety Date Bingo. And Doug S. is from Los Angeles, California. And we talk about his sobriety date at length. Now, let me say right off the bat, if you have tuned into the program today and expecting a kind of a good old-fashioned back in the day when I was sober, or, what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like now talk, this here episode number 297 is probably not the episode for you. I would move on to one of our almost 300 other episodes and see what you could pick up in those others. But I personally love this episode, but I realize it may not be everyone's cup of tea. Just forewarning you, all right? We thought about calling this episode Pot Twist, and you'll see, as opposed to Plot Twist, and you'll see why we thought about that as you listen to what we eventually titled Sobriety Bingo. Doug addresses resentment in depth and what sort of damage that resentment can cause. He talks about kind of in third person sad Doug and who that person is. We talk about one more time Purple Kush. If you don't know what Purple Kush is, just stay tuned in and you will know. We talk about Doug's lifestyle. It's probably the best way to put it. And anyway, I'll just let you hear that surprise as it comes up. A surprise? Maybe that's not the word for it, but I'll let you hear that bit of information. And then we talk about his girlfriend. His girlfriend named Mia. And you just got to hear him talk about that. Doug brings up quotes by Brene Brown, Hannah Gadsby, and believe me, folks, there's so much more we talk about. And by the way, I have had people write in before and say, hey, will you just let the speaker speak and keep your mouth shut or whatever? We don't want to hear you laughing in the background. Well, once again, I forewarn you, this is not the episode for you if you don't like that. Okay, so buckle your seats, enjoy the ride, and enjoy my friend, Mr. Doug S. We'll be back with plenty listener feedback at the end. Okay, everybody. So today we are sitting here with a return guest. Why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself, give your sobriety date if you wish, and then we'll catch people up on your past episodes, and then we'll dive a little further into your story.
My name is Doug S. I am here via internet in Los Angeles, speaking with my friend John M. Once again, my name is Doug S. My sobriety date is, let's see, it's in my notes, January 8th, 1983.
January 8th, 1983.
Wait a moment, that doesn't sound right. That would be 40 years. No, I'm sorry, that's 23. January 8th, 23.
Okay, January 8th, 23. And I thought there may be a little bit of a miscalculation there just from a couple of previous conversations we had. And we'll get into that in just a moment, okay? But you have a new sobriety date compared to the last times you were on the program. You were on the program when I first started this podcast. You were so good to me. You would come over here, you would record some episodes. Sometimes we did it on the fly. I would get them out there. And I had somebody recently who had been listening to your older episodes, and they asked, when were you going to follow up with Doug S? And I copied you on the email, and I said, hey, Doug, we hadn't talked in a while. Why don't we get on why don't we record another episode? And you said, hey, can I talk to you? I called you or you called me. I can't even remember. We talked and you said basically, hey, I'm willing to come on, but what do you need to know?
Are you throwing it back to me?
Yes.
I told you, I said, a plot twist. I have 90 days today. And
Did you just call that a pot twist?
No, but I don't think so. A plot twist, but it's a plot twist with a pot twist. All right. So when I got the call when I got the text message from you, my heart sank because that day I was at a virtual meeting and people were talking about needing speakers but you needed 6 months of sobriety. And I thought, oh, wow, I used to love to speak. I thought that you will have that again someday. And when I got your message, I paused for a moment and I just knew that you have to tell. You have to tell on yourself. I had already identified as a newcomer and But yeah, so I now have 125 days.
Well, congratulations on the 125 days, my friend.
And I just want to state this.
Mhm.
And last night I was going over like my different dates. I like figured out I could come up with a new game called Sobriety Date Bingo. And because I have several, and I'm not making light out of that. You do not have to relapse. I did, and that's part of my story. And I hope that maybe me being here today is going to help somebody. And that's it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's great. We have a lot, as you know, we have a variety of folks who come on the podcast. However, not everyone comes in, stays sober for 20, 30, 40 years. I was actually in and out for 3 years myself. I get it, the going in and out. And I've had people on the podcast recently who have changed their sobriety date. And we had a discussion about that and the kind of guilt or shame or whatever is involved in that. So, all right. So, well, okay. Let me talk about this first. So we had you on in the past. If you're looking for Doug S's past episodes, we had some interesting titles. One is Doug S. I think it was Porno Past Revealed. Is that correct?
Exposed.
Exposed.
Yes. Little double entendre.
And the reason, to me, it was just clickbait. Basically, we talked about this job you used to have in this. Do you want to describe it real quick?
Yeah, quickly. The world's largest distribution center of porno goods, and in the porno capital of the world, Chatsworth, California.
And you described what you did within that particular distribution center. It was hilarious. If you haven't heard that, go back and listen to Doug's episode with that. And then the second one was called like Purple Kush.
That was the third one.
Okay.
The second one was Do It Anyway.
Okay.
Which was the title of a porno. No, it wasn't. That was, oh my gosh, that was actually a poem that Mother Teresa had written.
That's right.
Sorry. And the third one was Purple Kush meets Dual Diagnosis.
So we talked about your infatuation with Purple Kush, right?
Yes.
And then also your dual diagnosis.
That's correct.
All right. So, and dual diagnosis I kind of had to get caught up on that term at the time. I remember that. Well, dual diagnosis is what?
Well, they in the book it says this disease rarely walks alone. And when I was 19, I was diagnosed with bipolar, and I self-medicated for 20 years. I am currently on medication and under a doctor's care, and I'm not here to advocate anything. It's just I will be on medication until the day I die.
Okay. I know that you have talked a lot in meetings before, and you've talked and you've given your story many times. But before we started this today, you said your heart rate was very rapid. What are your feelings? What do you think that's about?
Vulnerability. That's what that's about. Vulnerability. And you are great at interviewing. I have never been nervous anytime that we've ever done one of these. And I told you nothing was off limits. And is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So at 10 to 1, my heart rate just shot up. And I'm in pretty good shape, and my resting heart rate's usually 68. It's been 110, 104. And it's that fear of we're at 103 right now, which is really high for me. And when I sleep, it's at 57. A lot of fear from my past comes up of being revealed, for being who I am. That's it. just for me being who I am.
All right, so let's start then let's get caught up between maybe the last time that we spoke and where you are today. Obviously, you have 125 days. You have a new sobriety day. By the time I release this, it's going to be more than that. However, or well, let's hope one day at a time.
No, it will.
Right? There you go. And so between when you left Texas and went to LA, I mean, what happened when you got back to California? Was there anything in particular that has been going on in your life in terms of recovery and sobriety?
When I left Frisco, Texas, and I went from I just had two knees replaced, like I have three, but I had both my knees replaced within a 5-week period. And a snapshot of that was the first time in March. I had people that drove me to the hospital. I had people that picked me up. Every day, people would come to my house and drop off food, walk my dog. It was over the top, and I was just surrounded with so much love. 5 weeks later, I had my second knee replacement. I drove myself to the hospital. I recall making a post, I don't need any food or anyone to walk my dog. I haven't had a visitor for 7 days. Would somebody just stop by? And I didn't know what was going on. I knew something was up, but I wasn't sure. I had just failed miserably at a career change. I'd moved from Los Angeles, left the entertainment industry, not the porn business, but the entertainment industry. I was going to be a teacher, and I lasted 1 semester. I resigned. I had my knees operated on, and I didn't know what was going on, but I sure knew that nobody was talking to me. There was I couldn't get a pulse of what was going on, and then just about a month later, I learned that I had a relative of mine had posed as her husband and went on Facebook and reached out to several people that I knew. And I don't know all what she said, but no one ever came to me to tell me. And but I suddenly had no one. And so I reached out to her and just, in an email, just said, this is against the law. You can't pretend that you're somebody else. And I just was brokenhearted. And I spoke with my sponsor, and he said, you can't go and try to tell everybody you're part of the story. It just doesn't work that way. And he said, just continue to be a sober gentleman, and it'll all work out. And so I was hurt. I was resentful, and that's what brought me back to I'm back in California. I had sold everything.
And that was around what, 2018?
18, yes.
Okay, so you came back to California in 2018.
Correct.
And after that, what was like life from 2018 to 2023? Is there some way to give it a thumbnail sketch?
Yes. So I just wanted to check out, basically. I was going to move to Indonesia because I wanted cheap rent, and I just wanted to escape. I wanted to check out of life. I was hurt. I had no family members. Everybody was dead or dead to me. And we can talk about why that is, when we go into something else. But I just wanted to check out. And so that's what I did. I didn't move to Indonesia because I'd watched a documentary about their prisons, and I was scared that, something happened, I would have no safety net. And so I'm living in a beautiful home currently same home that I've been in for 5 years. The people that own this house I've known for over 20 years. I was just stoned.
Did the people in the house know how bad you were doing?
They knew that I was smoking pot.
And I want to back up. When did you start smoking pot?
So in October, that's when the relapse happened. And
October of what year?
2018.
Okay, gotcha.
And then it was just like, okay, I identified as a newcomer. I went to a meeting. I got a sponsor, a different sponsor. I started working the steps again, and just nothing felt right. I wasn't fun, outgoing Doug that everybody remembered.
Right.
I was the sad, depressed Doug, and apparently he's not too popular. and what's crazy is that these people that I've known for 20 years, the lady who owns the house, she has 34 nieces and nephews. And I knew most all of them. This was my crew. I lived on Sunset Boulevard in a cool rent control apartment back in the day, and they lived behind me. And let me tell you, my friend, we went everywhere. And when I say everywhere, I'm talking all over the world, including Ibiza, Spain, France, you name it, Morocco. And I worked at a gym, and I had a guest list, and I went to every nightclub there was, and I was dressed very nice, but I smoked crack. And people will still go, "You didn't smoke crack." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did." And out of all those people, I'm the only one that caught alcoholism.
Okay, I want to go back to 2018.
Go ahead.
Because I didn't know exactly when this happened, when the pot twist happened.
Yes.
So that was October of 2018.
Correct.
You had been sober for many years. How many years had you been sober up to that point?
So I have been over 5 years and 7 months, and I had not had alcohol for 15 years and 5 months. And I know you're not allowed to have 2 dates, but come on, that was something. It's like I don't celebrate that, but I do give myself a little high five, going, "Ooh, yeah." So yeah.
Okay, so you got.
I've been in the program for 15 years.
Okay. All right. So in October of 2018, you started smoking pot. So did you yourself think to yourself, "Oh, I need to change my sobriety date"? And I mean, what was going on in your head in terms of the recovery and program and 12 steps and all that?
What happened is I was driving Uber or Lyft, and I had been offered drugs almost every time that I drove Uber Lyft in Dallas or in Los Angeles. That's just, people offer you drugs. And so I was so accustomed to saying no. I'm an adult, and there's these 2 guys in the back seat, and they pulled out a smoking device, and I'm like, "You can't smoke that in here." And
like a bong or something?
Yeah. And I said, "I'm sober. You can't smoke that in here." And they're like, "Oh, it's not pot. You can't smell it. It's wax." And I'm like, "Wax?" And but I'm like, "No." And but there was something different about this. I don't know. It hit different, and it's when I say it hit different, I did not have the gumption to pull over and say no. And I took a hit of it or 2, and when I dropped them off, I was so high, and I didn't know. I was like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" I went to In-N-Out Burger and just stood in the parking lot for like an hour, and then drove home. And I was like, "That didn't happen. That did not happen. That's a one-off. It didn't happen. You're good." And I'm like, "Dude, you always made the promise that if you ever relapse, you would tell on yourself." And I went to go ahead.
So let me back up then. So you just said if you ever relapse, you would tell on yourself. So
yes.
Was there something deep down inside you that thought this may happen? I don't want it to, but you were struggling inside as to whether you would smoke pot or drink alcohol or whatever the case may be.
I was riddled with resentments.
Okay.
and it's in the book. It talks about we're not good with resentments.
No.
I was so ashamed of failing. As a teacher, I didn't have anybody in my life close. All of my relationships were fractured. I just didn't care. I just wanted to check out. That's where I was mentally. But I was going to an AA retreat.
There in California?
Yeah, I brought drugs with me, and I spent most of the time in my car smoking THC wax.
Okay, so that had been planned previously. You went to the conference. You spent most of your time in your car smoking. What? By the way, I'm sorry, wax is some sort of pot.
I didn't know either. I'm like, what is this wax thing? And what it's where the THC is extracted, and and it's very dangerous to make. I've never made it, but people do blow up the place, I guess. And yes, they do. And so it's they also call it shatter. And I became very educated on it very quickly because I'm an addict, and I was right back there at it. And I'm at this pot store right down the street from me, and they loved me. They were my new best friends, the three of them, and they're explaining about wax and about these stizzy pens where it's it's better than smoking weed. And they're like, you don't use as much. And I burned through one in 48 hours, and I showed up. And I said, I think it was leaking. And they're like, no, did it? And they said, those usually last like 2 weeks. And I'm like, well, I'm out. And they're like, dude. And so they're like already concerned. I had just started again, and I'm like, okay, well, then give me more of, and I'm like spending all this money, and I've got good at refilling the cartridges, and this is cheaper this way, and home delivery, and then it was Thanksgiving, and and I went to the weed store for Thanksgiving because I didn't have any. I'm sure I could have found someplace, but I'm at the weed store feeling sorry for myself. I'm like, these are my only friends. And we had THC infused turkey. I swear. And I'm just like eating this, and I'm just telling my little stories, and they're laughing, and they're like, we're our favorite customer. And then like a week later, I'm like, do not sell to me ever again. Don't sell. I'm sober. I got to stop. So I'm back at meetings, and I'm sad, Doug. And people are like, God, he's so sad. And then I'm like, and people, yeah, it sucked. And I was just, there was no, and by the end of the January, I was just like, fuck it. And, yeah, I just said, fuck it.
Okay, so from January 2019, I guess, up to this time, were you going to AA? Were you going to meetings? What was going on with you?
The end of January of 2019, I stopped going to meetings. Okay. I wanted no part of it.
Okay. How did that make you feel?
Well, I was really depressed and high and just stupid. There was no relief. There really wasn't. I was just high, and I guess you either get that or you don't. I was teaching English as a second language online to mainly people in China. Because that's what I was going to do when I went to Indonesia. But then when I saw the documentary about people going to jail for smoking pot, I'm like, shit, I'm smoking pot now. I can't go to Indonesia. I live in California. I've already got cheap rent in this beautiful house. The weed store people love me. And then it's, and I like figured it out all really, quick. And I'm like, I'm not even paying taxes on this. And it's, which is 30% in most places. But not in Rosemead. And so I'm just, and I've told you before about the purple kush that was expensive. And I would always get the compassion weed that was cheaper. And, but once you had 13 stamps in your passport for every 8 that you bought, you could then buy whatever you wanted. And I got top shelf purple kush. And so I kept trying to quit, but I had so many passports still. This was because this place had passports also. They know how to get you. And so I'm like, I'm going to quit. And then I'd like find a passport. I'm like, well, it's a free age. You can't give that up. And do you know what? It wasn't an eighth. By that time I was buying 28 grams at a time. That would last for 2 weeks. That's an ounce for our metric system people. Hi, turkey. I hear that I'm huge in turkey.
Yeah, when I just so you know, when I released that episode that was it said Doug S. Porno Past Exposed,
Yes.
I noticed that my numbers really went up in turkey.
I love turkey. I didn't even think of the connection. THC turkey, and then I'm big in turkey. And look, it's, if people talk about or think that I'm making light out of this disease, I am not. You know that I'm not.
Right.
Here, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay. It's a quote from a comedian who won a Peabody Award for her stand-up special. She's from Tanzania. It was devastatingly painful and beautiful comedy special. And her quote is, laughter is not our medicine. Stories hold our cure. Laughter is just the honey that sweetens the bitter medicine.
Yeah.
Hannah Gadsby. And when I tell these stories, and you can see that I struggle because it's, I'm bombarded with all the memories and the feelings, and I do have good recall, and it just all sorts coming out. Those are the stories that are our cure. And when you asked me something before the podcast, I thought, wow, okay, here comes more cure for me.
Okay, so let me just go there now then. So I had asked Doug before the podcast came on. With these particular episodes that I release, it's not a gotcha thing, right? I want people to be vulnerable, but I don't want them to feel like they have revealed more than they want to reveal. And so I did ask Doug before this. I said, listen, I don't want you to give me the answer now, but I don't want to talk about this unless this is something that you're ready to talk about. I've always had this little gut instinct within me that when you did all those stories, all those episodes, we never talked about any sort of relationships that you have. And I thought about that after they were all done. I said, why didn't I ask Doug about any of his relationships? And so I said, do you mind if I ask you once we get starting about your personal life? What kind of relationships you have with other folks, and so really what I'm getting at. And I know this is, some people are going to go, why do you ask that? This is really crazy, right? But I wanted to give you a chance if you wanted to talk about anything like this, because my gut always told me that you possibly may be gay. But I wasn't sure. And even when I asked you beforehand, I said, I don't want to know the answer, but would you mind if I ask the question once we get going? So what is your response to that besides, it's none of your business, John?
No, I'm gay. And I'm gay. And I have, even though I've lived in Los Angeles most of my adult life, I didn't come out until I was 27. That was in San Diego. I was in a relationship for 2 years. And I laugh because I have a sister who's gay also. So my parents produce alcoholic gay children. neither of them are alcoholics or gay, so they're carriers apparently. And and I'm 3 years younger than my sister, and we have no relationship. And and it is not uncommon for sibling relationships to not survive the death of both parents. And our relationship ended, shortly after my dad passed away. I have a half brother and a half sister. My half sister wasn't really in my life or any of our family members' life until my dad died. And my half brother, I adored him, and he's never spoken to me after my dad died. He referred to me as, my dad's name is Ken, and he referred to me as Ken's faggot son. That was for years, and I didn't know that. My dad's brothers, one's a well-known gospel singer, the other is a preacher, and none of them have ever spoken to me since my dad passed away because of my lifestyle. They do not mind to use that word either. So I have been taught that if I tell people who I really am, I'm going to be rejected. Even in Los Angeles, when I started speaking at meetings, I remember there is this guy who is gay, and he was speaking, and I said, and it's going around the room, and people are given 1 minute to respond, and every person goes, and then this guy's talking about how he was doing coke in this big, beautiful house, and somebody was always at the house redoing it, and because gay people love to redecorate, that just happens, and a lot of stereotypes are true. Okay, you ought to see. I can walk into a room and I'm like, let's start redecorating, and so it's just. There's things where people are like, I'm pretty sure he's gay. He's been in our house for 10 minutes and he's already redecorated. And he did my wife's color wheel. Turns out she's a spring and she was wearing winters. Thank God he stepped in. He's now showing my kids TikTok dance moves, and his goal of being a flight attendant, and every stereotype. I'm like, oh my God, you have Barbies, and then it's every stereotype I knew to push down. And I learned how to. And so in this meeting, it goes around to everybody, and I was just so nervous because I had been in the program for 2 months, and it gets to me, and I said, this is a no-win for me. I said, if I say what I should say, I'm going to regret it. If I don't have the courage to say what I need to say, I'm going to regret it. And I said, I don't necessarily identify with your story, but I'm gay also. I'm a homo. Here it is. And I said, I'll just share this. I said, I guess I'm kind of like gay light. And I said, sorry for the sentence that's getting ready to come up, but I'm the type of gay that I'll fuck your girlfriend like I owe her money and fall in love with your brother. So that's dangerous on drugs. And I had so many people coming up to me after that meeting, and they're like, all the girls are like, oh my God, I love gays. I'm like, back away. And and some dudes were like, I thought you were, man. It's cool. It's all right. And I'm like, and I didn't know how to act. I was like, when I say I didn't know how to act, I did not know how to function in life sexually without alcohol. So I just thought, well, I guess it's over. And and so I, even in Los Angeles in sobriety, I was still scared to be honest with people. And rarely did I ever bring it up in a meeting. And I remember when I did bring it up in a meeting, 4 people got up and walked out. And this is in Los Angeles. And I've also been in meetings where educated, seemingly hip people drop the F-bomb. And those resentments, I still remember. That was in November of 2012. And I still remember them saying it, and it hits so hard. I'm not trying to be a victim, but it's, when I think about the relationship in San Diego, I had this made up girlfriend named Mia, which stood for my boyfriend Dominic, who was in the Navy, and so we were both closeted. And I would tell my parents that I lived with Mia, and Mia stood for missing in action. And so my mom would go, "Where is Mia?" And I'm like, "She just walked out the door. You just missed her." And this is before FaceTime. And I'm just like, "Oh, Mia." And so it got so involved that I'm going to meet my father, who's on a business trip with all these people that he works with. And I found this girl, Genevieve, who I wanted her to play Mia. And I'm like, "We don't have to kiss. We don't have to do anything. Just respond to the name Mia." I said, it's at a resort. It's going to be great. You don't have to do anything but answer to the word Mia. And I said, "Do not get wasted," and start telling people. And so she's going to do it. And right before we go to this resort, she's like, "I'll go with you, but only to come out if you come out to your dad, and I'm going to be there for your support." I'm like, "This is not the time. Okay, this is not the time. We need to be there, Mia." And she's like, you should tell your parents." I'm like, "You don't get it." And so I knew how they hated the fact that my sister was gay. So I had no question in my mind how they were going to respond to me being gay. I was treated much different. I was blackmailed into or paid off to be straight. My mom said, "As long as Doug is straight and does what's right, we will always provide for him." And that meant cars, clothes, whatever. And so I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just won't work, because, I knew not to be gay. Oops, I was. And my relationships very much mirrored how I felt on the inside. It was people that were guys that were closeted. I could have made a lot of money on selling people out. I never wanted to hurt anybody because I know how it hurts. The truth can really hurt people. And I will tell you this, since being back in Los Angeles, I will tell anybody, I don't care anymore because, and my dating life is on fire. And it's like, I know straight people are like, "Please don't tell us the details. Don't tell me the details." And it's like, you just told me some crazy story about, in detail. And they're like, "Please don't tell us the story. Don't." And I'm like, "I'm not going to tell you the story." And then I'll like move my lips like, "But I will." And they're like, "Don't say it." And I'm like, "I'm not." And they're like, "We're cool. Just don't tell us the details." I'm like, "It's good. You're fine." So it's, that's been a whole great experience. So during that time, what California was like, I was high and, dating a lot.
well, did you ever talk about when you were in Texas? I didn't even think of it, right?
Right.
But did you ever talk much? I know you came here for a teaching career.
Well, how stupid. I should have went into real estate. I would have made a fortune. Gays love real estate. That's just true. And the place was called Frisco. I mean, what? Come on. Why should I be a teacher? And the most homophobic person that I met in Texas was me. It was me. It was me. There were people in the administration at the school I worked that were gay. There were kids that were gay. The kids could sense my dishonesty about who I was, and it affected them. My being uncomfortable with me made people uncomfortable with me. And on Memorial Day, I posted on Facebook, "This is by far the best day I've ever had since I moved to Frisco. I was with some people that that had a boat. We're on jet skis. I mean, I'm having the time of my life." And later that evening, about 7 p.m., there were just three of us sitting there. And one of the girls, she said, "So, are you gay?" And I was like a 13-year-old kid where somebody had just said that on the playground. And I left, and she called me the next day and said, I said something, and I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, for you to react that way, or I didn't know you'd react that way. And I said, I didn't give you an answer. And people are like, "Dude, you've never mentioned your wife, okay? You post pictures of your apartment that looks like it came out of, Architecture Digest, and it's what?
And you're really into how you look. You're working
Oh God,
out.
I'm a fitness trainer. Yeah, and yes, right, and yes, and and I'm not a eunuch, but it's like, well, I guess we just won't do anything anymore. And I'm like, "Do you really think this is going to work out for you?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And it's yeah. So that's no longer the issue. But yes, and I recall, one of our friends in the program that has passed away, Kathy. God rest her soul. I hope she's found some happiness and peace. I found out later. She said, why didn't Doug tell me he was gay? I'm great with the gays. He could have been my new gay best friend." And one time in a meeting, some girl said something, and she goes, and she was very loud. And she goes, "So are you gay? I was just wondering, are you gay?" And I go, "Shh, shh, 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 shh. Are you gay? I know, I get you that you're gay. You're gay, right?" And I'm like, "Stop, stop, stop." And I pulled her out of the meeting as soon as we did the prayer. And my hands are sweating. She's like, "You're gay, right?" I'm like, "Shut up." We walk outside, and I'm like, "You cannot say that, okay?" I go, "You cannot ask me that." I go, "I'm trying to be a teacher." And she's like, "But you're a guy." I'm like, "Stop it." And so I went to her sponsor's house, who is a good friend of yours. She's been on the show many times. And I said, "Look, I was going to tell you." I said, "Okay, here's what's going on." And she was like, "Oh, shocking. You're gay?" And I'm like, "I know. Can you believe it?" And I don't care how gay or effeminate gay dudes are. We all think nobody knows, And it's like, you're a choreographer. It's like, what? But I love football. But and last thing about this. When I was 5, my dad takes me to the World Series. It's Cincinnati Reds. And somebody asked me, they said, "Doug, who's your favorite team?" And I said, "The Houston Astros." And I shouldn't have even attempted to say Astros. But I said, "Houston Astros." And he says, "Why?" And I said, "Because I love their costumes." If you remember, they had a big star and they had this color. And I referred to the grandstands as the audience. And I go, "The audience." And my dad is just like such this walking encyclopedia of baseball. And I'm like, and he just like wants to like leave his body. And we spoke about that, like about, a couple months before he died. He goes, "Oh, I remember that." And I'm like, "The Astros, their costumes." So it's like, people have always known. And it's like, and I would walk around, but I dated so many girls, and I've been with like a lot of girls. And I came out because I was hurting a lot of very nice young ladies, and I did not want to destroy their life. So That's that.
Okay, so oh, we're gonna have to talk about you getting back into AA. So, like, as I've said many times, I never know where these conversations are going. I don't have scripted questions. I have an idea sometimes of what I want to talk about, but who knew? All
Who
right,
knew?
yeah, okay, so, but. And I know there's going to be people listening to this, and they'll say,
You think?
"Aren't you supposed to be?" that are going to say, "What you should be talking about?" See, okay, here's the deal. I've had so many different pieces of advice, and what I mean by that, I've had a lot of people say, "Just don't ask, don't tell." Right? AA is not a place for that. It's just we should. It's all about recovery. I have other people who have said, you don't have enough people on the program that are gay that talk about it. We need more. And I say, you don't know this, but there are a lot of people who have been on that are gay, and I know it, but they just don't, they prefer not to talk about it, which I'm fine with, right? And then there's a lot of in the middle sort of discussion and suggestions. However, I asked, and I'm so glad we talked about it.
Do you know? And I want to say this. I'm literally reaching out to people that are listening, and I just want to tell you, if you are struggling with any secrets you have, if you're struggling with you're not honest about your sober time, tell somebody, please. It's not worth the lie. If you're struggling with who you are is perfect. The dogma that we're taught is just weeds in our head. And please be who you are, because the best part of you is the real you. The dreams that you had as a kid, that's who you are. And I've gone through so much pain having to lie about who I am. And I would hope that somebody listening to this is going to be relieved of some pain and feel a little bit of courage to be who you are. Courage means core means heart. Courage is to tell your whole story of your heart without shame. The shame is what destroys our good.
That's a great way to leave this, Doug. I absolutely have, oh gosh, I've enjoyed this so much. So much. I appreciate you coming on. I know you were a little bit tentative about it, and hopefully your heart rate is doing much better now.
It's like 30.
Yeah, I could tell as we started going on, you completely loosened up. Your countenance changed, and I said, "That's our Doug." I love it. All right, so
thank you so much. Thank you so much, and God bless you for the blowback that you're going to get, because there will be some, I'm sure. I would love to see the negative comments that you get. Send those to me. That would suit me so much better. I'm like, positive reinforcement. Who are the people that hate me? I want that list.
Well, I'll be sure to send you whatever I get. And I don't know, is there any last words you want to say before you go off? Are you good? You want me to go ahead and read?
Yeah, I just want to thank you for, it's you. Are you at 300 yet?
No, we're like at 2. Well, maybe, this could be episode 300.
I want it to be. But it's when I commend you so much, because you do have people that share honestly, and it's not all just about the steps. It's so many people have that one story about, well, I sat on the couch for 22 years and drank wine. It's like, really? I had a visa. I went some places, and I kind of got into some entanglements, as Jada Pickett would call them. I slapped some people in my lifetime, and I don't care. But it's, I traveled a bit, and I had a good time. And I'm sorry not everybody had a good time, but I had some really wonderful times. I look forward to having good times again. Meaning, you know, I'm going to go to my boat later today. All right. And so during the whole time that I was stoned, I took my boat out twice. In a year, I took it out twice. People are like, what are you doing on your boat? I'm like, well, I get there and I just relax and I decorate and I just smoke pot. And then I'm just there. You know, that's what I did. That was my life. Nothing got fucking done. Anyway, back to you, John.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and close it out with page 164 from the Big Book. And I will give, because I know you're a verbose guy. We've talked about this many times.
Oh, yes.
I will give you a chance if you think of something during page 164 that you just really think you need to share. I will give you a chance to get it out there. Okay?
Oh, my God.
It says, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us, like me and Doug S., as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Once again, Doug, thanks. Is there anything you want to add?
I just want to give a quote by Brene Brown, and when I borrowed from her when I was using the courage, the story of your heart without shame, your full heart without shame. And she has a quote: "What we don't need in the midst of struggle is shame for being human." And I'm just going to say that again. What we don't need in the midst of struggle is shame for being human. Brene Brown.
That is fantastic, Doug. Once again, God bless you. We'll talk a little bit after I stop recording here, figure out what to do next. But that was absolutely fantastic, my friend. God bless you.
I love you, buddy.
Love you too, my friend. I told you on the front end of this here episode that was going to be a wild ride, and indeed it was. So I would love to know what you think. Send me your comments and or feedback at John, JOHN, at soberspeak.com. And remember, we don't want you sharing your gossip, nor do we want you sharing your toothbrush, but we would love for you to share this episode. I'm sorry, I just crack myself up sometimes, but we would love for you to share this episode with a friend and or, it's like a and then a little slash and a or, a family member. It may be just what they need today. So pause that little device that you're on. It could be a big device. I don't know how big it is. But anyway, pause it. Click that little share button and get it on over to somebody who may benefit from that today. Thank you very much. And once again, thank you, Doug. I know going into that episode that Doug was a little tentative. And I would be as well. And I'm glad that he feels comfortable enough. And we offer a safe place to share all sorts of different experience, strength, and hope. And I hope you feel the same way, the listener. So anyway, thanks again, Doug. Really, really appreciate you coming on and being as vulnerable as you were. Now, everybody, on to a little bit of listener feedback. Giovanni writes in, and I just absolutely love saying Giovanni. And I know Giovanni, it's been a long time since he's written in, but I remember his name for sure because I am so jealous of his name. I don't want to be a John. I want to be a Giovanni, right? It's got a little magic to it. Anyway, Giovanni writes in. He says, "Hi, John. My name is Giovanni. I wrote you, a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, at that time, I did not completely abandon myself to the program. Needless to say, I went out and plunged into the abyss. That took me to what I now know was my bottom. Today, I am 40 days sober. God bless you, Giovanni. I'm so glad." He said, "I made the effort to read the big book, the 12 and 12, and the transcript of Joe and Charlie. The big book comes alive almost on a daily. I make the effort to read these things almost on a daily basis. I have also been reading other AA-related material, such as Bill Sees It, Wally Payton's How to Listen to God, and Back to the Basics of Recovery, Thomas, and then here's another book, Thomas E. Powers' Invitation to a Great Experiment, and Joe McHugh, The Steps We Took, and Ward B. Ewing's 12 Steps of Religious Spirituality." Man, you've been reading a lot, Mr. Giovanni. That's fantastic. And then he says, and of course, listening to a variety of podcasts, but mainly trying to, every day to apply the steps in my life. Giovanni. Well, Giovanni, I am so glad you're 40 days sober, and I'm so glad you're soaking up all the material related to AA, and that's what you need to do, right? They always say, get in the boat. Wait a second, is that it? Yeah, get all the way in the boat, I think is what they say. And I've also heard this in the meetings, come all the way in and sit all the way down. So it sounds like you have come all the way in and sit all the way down, and I'm really happy for you, Mr. Giovanni. Thanks for writing in. Selena writes in, and she says, "Hey, John, is Sober Speak something you've created? I absolutely love it." Well, yeah, I guess it is. I've never thought about myself as a creator, but I guess that's what I am. She says, "I've recently made my way back to the program. Recently, since my recovery anniversary date, I also just completed 2 assignments as a sober escort." Laugh out loud. "And a sober companion. I just got home from my last assignment, and it was more mentally healthy than anything." So I'm just assuming just like sober escort is it's just like you're sitting with somebody. But anyway, that is really cool. I don't remember if they had sober escorts when I was first younger. When I was first sober, my mind is going off. I'll just quit now. But anyway, Selena, that's cool. Anyway, she says, "The past week has been humbling, eye-opening, and unpredictable, but the outcome of both assignments is worth it." That's really cool. "I feel this is going to be rewarding work, and I am enjoying the time freedom to work on other passion projects in between having assignments, but despite my first 2 assignments being back-to-back with each other." Smiley face. Anyway, yes. Let me know if you have any writing opportunities, especially if it's tied to recovery. Would love to continue working an active recovery program. All the best, Selena. So for those of you not on the mailing list, if you're not, by the way, and you want to be, just email me at johnjohn@soberspeak.com, and we will get you signed up. Or you can actually go to the website, and there's a little sign-up sheet there. And I had sent out an email asking for writers for the website, and if anybody else is interested in that, you can send me. I think I'm covered now. It's a long story, but if you want to send me your, I don't know, petition, not application, no, just send me an email. We'll talk about it. I'll give you some details for those of you who are not hip and cool like me. John R. writes in and he says, "Hey, John, I had a drink 6 hours before listening to your podcast, and I am now 209 days sober today. I did my very first share ever at a meeting last night. John R." Well, John R., cool for you, man. That is fantastic. Glad to hear you're 209 days sober, and I'm glad you were able to share a meeting. Very nice. Keep me posted. Katie DMs direct messages on La Instagram, and she says, "Hey, John M. Katie, with the purple mohawk from Milwaukee, Wisconsin here. Yes, I remember you, Katie. I think you're in Al-Anon, if I'm not mistaken." She says, "I just wanted to say how excited I was to hear your episode with Alan B. I've been listening to his emotional sobriety podcast for a while now, and I really love it. It was great to hear two of my favorite recovery podcast personalities come together. I have found so many parallels between emotional sobriety and the things that I work on in Al-Anon." Yes, she is an Al-Anon. "Emotional sobriety has been a great addition to my recovery, and I think a lot of your other listeners will find this approach to recovery as profoundly helpful as I have. Thanks for always having a great guest on your shows. I look forward to listening every week. Thank you for your continued service and for being a companion to so many of us as we trudge the road of happy destiny." Little heart emoji, little smiley face, little praying hands, and then she hugs Katie S. in Milwaukee. Well, Katie S. in Milwaukee, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I'm glad you enjoyed that episode, and Alan B. was a delight to talk with. All right, everybody, that there is another episode of, what am I doing here? Sober Speak in the books. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. May God bless you and keep you until then. I take this one semana, week at a time, and I hope to be back next week. We shall see. And what else do I got? I think that's it. Love you guys. Have a great week, and thanks for listening in.